Hey everybody, it is Marty, the JavaScript party, and my buddy Rat back there. She seems to be pretty mellow today. Um, it is 7:57. It's a beautiful spring day here in Marietta, Georgia. I just took the dogs out for a walk. I saw we live next to a creek. We have a really pretty creek behind us that adjoins our property, and that I saw just a beautiful, beautiful river otter in the creek this morning. I believe it's a river otter. It is. They do live in the Chattahoochee, and the Chattahoochee is one of like our. You can get to the Chattahoochee from our creek. It would be very, very difficult to get there, like on a boat, because it gets very shallow in certain spots and all that. But, anyways, I think one of them has decided to expand his territory all the way up here, and it's really neat to see him. I see him once in a great while. I don't know exactly where he lives, but I think they live in like a bunch of different little places. But, anyways, so that was cool. Um, and we are working on this code. We made really good progress. I think the general architecture is put together now, and now basically what I'm trying to do is uh, move it forward. Like I'm coding in a very linear way. Like I'm doing one thing, then another thing, which is like
Right.
the only way. I cannot multitask or work on things in a parallel matter. I have to kind of get one thing working, and then once I get one thing working, I have to get the next thing working, and then I may have to backtrack and do stuff. But basically, I got the whole drawing mechanism working, uh, and I got this in the main app viz working based on the example that they give you in the ThreeJS npm page. And so then I kind of ported it into a component. And so now here it is in the component, but this component doesn't know how to the system doesn't know how to make the one that's in the component animated. And so that is like kind of the next step. But the thing is that's still bad, right? Or still not what I want. Because it's bad's probably not the right word, but it's still not what I want, because what I want is for the user to control, be able to build out really cool geometries and stuff like that. And right now, we're a mile away from that. I'm just trying to sort of migrate in that direction. And like every time it's sort of one step forward or two steps forward, one step back, two steps forward, one step back. And then it's just like right now it'd be nice to be like working on, oh, let's have different geometries, oh, let's use different materials, oh, let's add lights. Like all those things would be great to be working on. But oh, let's be able to import, let's be able to export, let's be able to view it in a CSV, comma separated values sort of view, instead of just a JSON sort of view, like that kind of thing. Like there's so many things to work on, and and all these things are sort of parallel things. And then it's such a sort of a like a unknown, incredibly huge domain that I don't really know it well enough to be able to be like, okay, I'm going to try to get somebody else to work on another part of it with me, because I don't know what pieces. Like right now, I guess somebody could be working on just being able to generate the visualizations and them sort of laying out, and then be able to like have different sizes, and then maybe even like a what's called like a masonry effect, where it has sort of some intelligence in there that figures out the best way to lay it out for the masonry. That would actually be fun to dig into. Is like I think one of the sort of challenges that has not been conquered is how to do a really, really good masonry effect on that. And I don't even think we've really even. It'd be interesting to see how much theoretical work has been done on that. Like, do you want to start off with, like, how do you want to group things, and then how do you want to, you know, put it together? Like, one of the things that's already screwed up, right, is for masonaries is websites are sort of top down, but walls are bottom up. So in walls there's just a basic concept of a ground, but like websites, the basic concept is a ceiling. So you've already reversed the whole damn masonry concept from if you're gonna equate it to like building a brick wall, which I think that's what masons do, is they build like stone brick walls and stuff like that. And some of the master ones know how to sort of place everything in such a way that it's aesthetically beautiful to the eye and all that. But anyway, so this is like sort of we're at a transition point where we've conquered one dragon. Now we're going after a different dragon, which I hope is a smaller dragon, and it's kind of a good time to just sort of opine on other things. But let's stop. I'll stop opining now and figure out. I think there's like kind of three major milestones here, and one milestone is going to be like managing sending a function to ThreeJS to run in order whenever to handle animations. The other is managing creating animations, defining animations within the structure. And then I think the other is like right now in my Viz component, and this I don't have to do now, but I feel like this is the right time to do. Right now in the Viz component, I don't really have an input. What I have is like it handles its own, all its own stuff. And really, I wouldn't want that to be handled within the component. All I really want the component to do is render. So like those three things I think need to get done before I would call this done. But maybe two of them, maybe that one can be separate. The piece where basically I'm going to feed the some data structure into the Viz component, then the Viz component's going to render that data. Maybe I could do that separately. It'll be a little harder later because that structure is going to get more complex. So maybe it will be easier to kind of get that architecture working, but now and then it's just sort of, or maybe it'll be easier once I understand what the structure that I'm going to be feeding it is going to be. It's hard to that's a tough one to know right now. But I know right now what I do is I set the size and up here. Okay, so let's just kind of walk through this in a narrative sort of way. So basically right now we create a renderer service. I think the renderer service really only does a couple things. It doesn't have a st in front of it, so it's for ThreeJS. So we know that. So we basically say that, and now we probably makes sense maybe to go take a look at the renderer service and just sort of get a take on what. Okay, so it can create a renderer. And then it can get that same renderer, and then it can render the renderer. But to render the renderer, it needs to be passed in a scene in a camera. So the renderer is not tied to a scene in a camera. It just gets a scene in a camera, which is a bit different than the way I do, I think, everything else. I think like scenes are tied to all of their children and cameras are tied. I think cameras kind of standalone. So technically the way I have this, like I could pass this renderer a whole different scene and a whole different camera, and it would just render that, which I think is probably okay. So it does not have the concept of an animation. So it seems like I would want to, when I create a renderer, that I would want to be able to add an animation by ID. So like an animation that's specific to this renderer. So we're just kind of thinking out loud right now of kind of just taking just a general look at what we're working with here. That's all. Um, but it seems like probably what I'm going to want to do is have some mechanism here for adding an animation to a no. Yeah, okay, so that would be a mistake because now I'm remembering animations are tied specifically to right now to to meshes. So this would not be where you would add. Well, okay, so the animation function that runs every so basically what happens is there's something in the browser called an animation frame. And basically what an animation frame is kind of a weird word for me just for my upbringing and the way I kind of view the world. A frame is like a noun. And that so an animation frame is like, and maybe this is right, this is a good way to think about it, is a something that is going to be updated to the next thing, and then you do like a request. So you request an animation frame, and the thing is this isn't like a request, like a one-time request where you say, hey, I'd like you to go get me a burger at the burger shop. It's more like, I want you to get me I want you to fill up my car every Monday, right? So you're saying, hey, every time some event happens, I would like you to do something. So that's what the request animation frame is a function that it's going to execute at a specific event. And that event is when the browser decides it wants to change the screen. And that typically happens, there's no guarantee of how long that happens, but that typically happens every 60 times a second. So ThreeJS added sort of another layer of abstraction to it. And I cannot remember exactly what it is, but let's see. So we have our renderer. Let's see if we can just figure it out off the top of our head or with this dot. I think it's like set animation. So basically all this does is, I believe this is just a layer of abstraction on top of that request. So you give this thing the function, and then it'll pass the function onto the browser. And I think what this does for you is it sort of gives you sort of the possibility of being able to execute this outside of a browser. Like if there was another way, and ThreeJS supported that other way of another thing that where animations and all the 3D stuff and all that was created, this would figure out however they've implemented it in whatever. So it's just sort of a layer so that if ThreeJS supports other things, and they may not, I don't know. But anyways, that animation function that knows how to update the screen is attached at this level, at the renderer. But the way I've set it up on the ST side, animation behaviors are defined at the mesh, because that's what changes. Now, that will get a little bit more complicated when lights come in, because lights can also be animated, and I may have other things that can be animated. So, and that's why I wanted like the whole animation request, or the whole animation, the thing that calculates all the animations, to kind of be its own separate world. All right, so there, we understand that now. I think if I hit Alt left, I can go back to here. Okay, so second thing is the ST renderer service. Okay, so the ST renderer service is the system, the service, the code that handles sort of accounting and all that on the non-3JS side. So 3JS handles all the ones that don't have ST in front of it handle everything that is specifically bound to 3JS. This handles everything that's bound to how we want to define things. So it probably makes sense to go look in there and just see what we were working with over there, because it's been a minute. Okay, so I think all we have is this get base renderer. Oh, and an ability to get the renderer ID and then render by ID. So this is where, so in ThreeJS, they do not have a direct relationship between renderers and scenes and cameras. They don't care. You can change them anytime you want. This is where we have bound them together. We've said, hey, a renderer has a scene and it has a camera. They're together, but we did that. So we have a different paradigm on than ThreeJS, because we have different needs than ThreeJS. So this is where I'm creating the kind of concepts that I need on that I want, how I want things to work. And this is where that exists, is in this on the ST side. And so basically, I don't want to have to try to manage. I want to manage scenes and cameras tied to renderers in a very specific way, and that happens in this service. Okay, renderer ID. So this is from the ST renderer, and I'm just saying, hey, set me up just a basic renderer. So that means that since in my world a renderer has a scene and it has a camera, it's going to set all that stuff up for me. So this code is like, I'm going to want to migrate all three of these pieces of code up to the app for now. Right, it's about ready to get excited. Not quite. How far in are we? We're 60 minutes in. I think you're right. In the, what? Oh, I have work in 47 minutes. So thanks for the reminder, Rhett. You did a good job. All right, let's see if she'll leave us alone for a little bit. Maybe not. All right, so now I actually get the whole renderer for the whole ST version of the renderer. And I think an ST renderer has an actual ThreeJS render object in it. I don't know if I use it that way. And then, actually, no, this is the renderer here. So I get the renderer by ID. I get the actual physical render. So let me go back here to ST renderer. Go to definition. We'll go back here again. Yeah, so it does actually have an instance of the renderer, but I'm not using it. And this is not something that I'm depending on. It's not a required field. And then for some reason I have a renderer ID on here, which is not required. So I'm guessing this is the ThreeJS renderer ID. I bet you I don't need that, but we'll see. We will see. Now, this is the actual DOM element that I'm going to attach, because that's one of the things is the renderer actually needs the element, the DOM element that it's going to attach to. Well, it doesn't, but okay, so what it does, the renderer generates a DOM element that you attach wherever you feel like attaching it to. And this is probably behavior that I'm going to want to stay in the ST visualization. And so service renderer by ID. Okay, so then this is where I tell it to actually render this. Okay, so what we want to do is two things. One, we want to get a function that it's going to run every single time. And then we're going to want to add intelligence to that function that knows how to read that. So basically, I think I have an animation service that I am not even pulling in. So we know that that's the first step. Right now, the future is a bit vague to me, but I think that the first step will be to get the animation service in, and then that animation service is going to need to be able to create a function that knows what the ID that it cares about is, and is smart enough to be able to update the meshes that's being used. So in effect, what that means is I have tightly coupled the animation of a mesh to the mesh. So you wouldn't really be able to say, hey, I have this mesh and I'm looking at it like in one camera, but I'm not moving it. But in then this camera, I am moving it. That's what I'm giving up. But what I will get is, hey, I'm showing this thing from 3 different places, from 3 different views, and it's rotating the same in all 3 views. You're just seeing it from 3 different views. Like, I'm just making a decision right now that that's the direction I want to go in. I want to be able to see, I want, if I change the behavior of a mesh, it changes wherever that mesh is used, everywhere. So, Rhett, what's going on? It's Monday morning. Are you having a bad day, Rhett? Rhett, are you having a bad day? Yeah? Okay, well, let's try to cheer up a little bit. All right, so I guess that's what I'm going to do. That's all I'm going to do is, I believe I have an animation service. So animation does know how. So my animation service is, it knows how to update a mesh for animations. So it looks like the concept of an ID and a renderer and all that stuff doesn't exist. So let's say get create renderer for ID. And what this thing is going to return is a function, and I don't know exactly. I don't know if that's going to work. Is it like this function? Oh well, it may be upset. And then return. Not exactly sure. Oh, it looks like it wants to make it a capital F. And we could definitely, we'll probably TID, and that's going to be a number. So the thing is this function will know, through closure, through a concept called closure, will know what this ID is. So it will be able to look up in a mesh. It'll be able to look up in a renderer. It'll be able to traverse through the render ID into the scene, and into the scene, go iterate over all the meshes, and then find all the IDs, and then find all the meshes, all the geometries of all the meshes in there, and then see how it's supposed to be rendered, or how it's supposed to animate, and then make a decision on that. One of the things I'm probably going to need to do, though, well, there's so many things I need to do, but one of the things I'm going to need to do is add the concept of time. What is the current time right now, and figure out how I'm going to use that. So there's a shitload to do here, guys. This is, yeah. And so this, if you would have asked me this morning, oh, how much time are we going to spend on animation ID, I would have said, 2 days, 3 days. Now, as I start to dig into it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this might take 30 days. I just don't even know, because as I dig in, I'm starting to, the yarn is just on the sweater. I'm pulling on a piece of yarn that I think is going to pull right off, and I'm finding out that it's connected to more and more and more stuff. So there's a lot of stuff I have to do. So we know we're going to want to do this, and we're going to want to return a function, and we do know that we want this. We want to inject this animation service. So that's the last thing I want to do today. This is going to be fun, though. This is going to be so fun, getting this working. Guess we should probably pull in the animation service. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs, laughs, joy, and tears that come from this getting animations working. And then and let's just double check that it brought it in from the right place. And probably don't want that there. Probably want this guy here. And we want to go and get this guy there. And put that there. It's probably the ideal way to do it. I don't know. I guess we should have our services together. Maybe like that. Move the interface up there. Just sort of make it a little easier for the brain to sort of absorb everything that's in there. Because, we're going to come, there's no way I'm going to remember all this stuff. So I'm going to have to come back and sort of reabsorb it. And the less energy and mental ability I have to put into sort of absorbing this information here, the more energy I'll have to do this stuff here. And when we're all, the crazy thing is when we're all done, none of these things will be here. They'll all be someplace else. But that is that. Nothing, we didn't really do a lot. We do not, this might be like for, test driven development. Maybe I could write a unit test for this now. I don't think so, because I just don't know what this function is actually going to return. What would I think maybe all I'd want it to return is, oh no, so this is a function that probably won't return anything. Wonder if I say return void, if it helps me up here. Because I don't think I actually want this function to return anything. So I think I want what the TypeScript for. What is the TypeScript that describes a function that accepts nothing, returns nothing? So like this, can I do that? Yeah, so that, but see, then what we would want it to do is to know how to go to the which I do, the st renderer service, get the right service, and then work its way through everything. So that will be a very fun unit test that knows how to set all that stuff up and ensure that the animation was executed properly. That's going to be really cool. I think it would be so hard to write that ahead of time, though. I just don't even, the more, so this is more complicated. The more I look into this, the more complex it gets. But anyways, it is 8:26. I start work in 34 minutes. It's Monday. So far, I think at this point, I'm pretty optimistic that it's going to be a fun day, a good work, positive, productive work day today. So hopefully it is. And happy coding, everybody. Bye.